Okay, good morning, students. So, in the previous class, we have studied the properties of pre-stressing concrete and we have studied the properties of pre-stressing steel. Okay, so that was covered. So that is the first chapter of your first module. Okay, so that finishes with your first chapter of your first module. So moving on to the second chapter of your first module, that is we deal with analysis of your pre-stressed members. We have to deal with analysis of our pre-stressed members. Similarly, you have studied the analysis of RCC members, right? You have studied how you analyze various beams, right? You have studied how you analyze your singly reinforced beams. Then you have studied how you analyze your doubly reinforced beams. Similarly, you have studied for columns, right? Then after analysis, what you do is you design your RCC members. So the first thing that you have to learn is how to analyze the various elements. So that is what we will be learning in this second chapter of your first module. That is, we will learn the various techniques, the concepts that you use, and how you analyze your PSC members. Okay, so that is what we will be studying here. And after this, we will be looking into design of various elements. Okay, so that is what we will be dealing with in your second and third module. We will be designing various pre-stressed elements for various loadings, right? Like flexure we will be designing. Then we will be learning how to design your pre-stressed members for shear, right? So we will be learning design after we learn our analysis. So we will be looking into how you analyze your pre-stress members in this second chapter of your first module. So analysis at transfer and at service. Okay, so we will be specifically learning how to analyze your member at the transfer and at service stage. Okay, so what I mean by transfer is whenever we transfer our stresses from pre-stressing steel to our concrete, that stage is called the transfer stage, wherein there are no live loads. Okay, there are no live loads. Only we deal with the dead loads. That we deal with the self weight of the structure. Okay, so there are only self weights and there are only dead loads. There will be no live loads at the transfer stage and at service stage. Okay, and at the next part, that is your next stage is service stage, wherein your element or your member is put into service, and then live loads are coming in that stage, right? So we will be dealing with the dead loads as well as live loads in your service stage. So that is what is meant by transfer stage and at service stage. So we will be learning how to analyze our pre-stressed members at your analysis stage, at your transfer and at your service stage. Okay. So the analysis and transfer at analysis and the analysis at transfer and under service loads are similar. Okay, so the process of analyzing your members is similar at your transfer stage as well as your service stage. So both are similar. So what we do, we will be studying them together. Okay, we will be studying at analysis of transfer and analysis at service together. We will be studying because the method of analyzing are similar. Okay, so that is that. Next, pre-stressed member usually remains uncracked under service load, right? That I have explained to you how under service load a pre-stressed member is uncracked. There are no tensile forces allowed in your pre-stressed member. So that is a type 1 structure wherein no tensile forces are allowed. And usually your pre-stressed member is uncracked under service load. Even when we are using it, whenever we even though the member is at service, right? Even though live loads are coming on top of it, there the member is not experiencing any amount of tension, hence there will be no cracks. That is what is told. The pre-stressed member remains uncracked under service load. So that is true for type 1 members and also for type 2 members. But under type 3 members we allow some amount of cracking, but that crack width is under limit. Okay, so that crack width is under your allowable limit. So usually it remains uncracked and uncracked under service loads. Usually it remains, right. It is not 100% of true for all the members, but it is true for type 1 and type 2 members, wherein no cracking is allowed. Okay, so the concrete and steel are treated as elastic materials, right? The concrete and steel are treated to be elastic in nature. That means after unloading, your strain will be regained. Okay, stress will be regained. That is, there will be no permanent deformation. So that is what we will be assuming here. And the principle of superposition is applied. We will be using the principle of superposition. You will understand it once we head on to the numerical. Okay. So the next thing is the concepts that we will be using. The concepts, as I have shown you here, we will be using three basic concepts. Okay. So first concept or your first approach is based on stress concept, and the second concept is your force concept, with the what we call as force concept, and the third one is your load balancing concept. Okay, so these three concepts we will be using, and we will be learning how to use these three concepts and analyze our pre-stressed member at transfer and at service. Okay, so first concept is a stress concept, which we will be learning, and it is an important one with respect to your exam point of view, wherein usually they ask a numerical based on your stress concept. And this force concept and load balancing concept we will be learning after we learn our first, that is a stress concept. We will be more concentrating on your stress concept. So moving on to your first concept, that is your stress concept. Let us look into what is this stress concept. So, as the name suggests, we will be looking into the stresses which are developed in your section, right? Stresses which are developed in your cross section, and with those, we will be learning how to analyze and how to design. Okay, so in this approach, based on stress concept, the stresses at the edges of the section, the stresses at the edges of the section under internal forces in concrete are calculated. Okay, the stresses at the edges meaning at the edge. Let me just draw a beam. So if this is your beam, okay, if this is your longitudinal elevation or a longitudinal view of your beam. So this part is your edge. Let me just change the color. So this is your edge. Okay, so these are called your edges. Okay, so these are your edges. This is your top edge and this is your bottom edge. Okay, top and bottom. So what we do is uh, the stresses at the edges of the section under internal forces in concrete are calculated. We study and we determine the stresses at the edges. Okay, not at the yeah, this part, not at any of this section, but only at the edges. That is at the top fiber and at the bottom fiber. Okay, so at the top fiber we find what is the stress, and at the bottom fiber we find what is the stress. And these stresses are due to the internal forces in the concrete. Okay, so due to the internal forces that are developed in the concrete, there will be some amount of stresses which will be developed at the top fiber and at the bottom fiber. Okay, whenever I mean top fiber, you have to imagine this part of the beam, that is the top surface of your beam, and this is your bottom surface, which is the bottom fiber of your extreme bottom fiber of your beam, which we call as soffit of the beam also. Okay, soffit or your bottom fiber, and this is your top fiber. Okay, so moving on. So the stress concept is used to compare the calculated stresses with the allowable stresses. So what we do is in the stress concept, we use certain formulas, we use certain techniques, and we calculate the stresses at top and bottom fiber. Okay, so we calculate the stresses at the top and bottom fiber, and then we compare it with the allowable stresses. What we do is, after calculation using stress concept, what we do is we compare it with the allowable stresses, whether it is within the allowable stress limit or whether it is exceeding. Okay, so that is helpful in your design stage. So the following signs and notations are used for analysis of pre-stress members. So these are important. You must know what are the various notations, various sign conventions which we use, and this will be same throughout your entire subject. Okay, so throughout your entire numerical, that is in your next modules also, we will be using the same sign conventions and the notations. So remember these are very important. So coming to your first one. So P is representing your pre-stressing force. We represent pre-stressing force by the letter capital P. Okay, so capital P is used to denote your pre-stressing force. Yeah, suppose this is your beam which is pre-stressed. So we show a arrow mark, okay, we show a arrow mark like this, and one more arrow mark like this, representing compressive pre-stressing force. And this is your steel tendon, okay, this is your steel tendon, and we write like this. So this is your pre-stressing force, which is denoted by capital P. And we use sign convention, that is positive for compression. We use positive for compression, and you can see in this case which I have drawn, both the forces are acting towards each other, right? So they are acting towards each other, and they are compressing this concrete element, right? This is, they are compressing the concrete element, so they are positive. So this compressive force or the pre-stressing force is positive because it is compressive. And if it was tensile in nature, we would have considered that as negative. Okay, so positive for compression, and negative for tension. So that is the main sign convention which we will be using throughout this syllabus. Okay, so the second thing, eccentricity. Okay, eccentricity is denoted as small e. It is, the letter small e is used to denote eccentricity in your pre-stressing force. So eccentricity is usually, if this is your CGC, which is CG for your concrete, right? CG for your concrete. And if this line represents the CG for your steel, okay, CG for your steel, CG, it is usually denoted as, let me just scroll down, it is denoted as like this, okay, CGS and CGC. So you can see here, this is your concrete element, right? It is your concrete beam which is simply supported, and you can see it is having a UDL, it is having a UDL above it. So this is your cross section. You can see this is your cross section of your concrete, and the centroid or the CG will be at the center point, center, right, of the concrete I am talking about. So this is the CG of your concrete. So this is represented by a line over here. You can see it is represented by a line which is CGC. So it is CG for concrete. So it is represented as C. So you can see this is your pre-stressing steel in your cross section. This is your pre-stressing steel, and you can see in the longitudinal section, you can see a pre-stressing steel is seen over here. So this is your centroid of your steel, because there is only one pre-stressing element over here. So this will be, this itself will be your CG for your steel. Okay, CG for your steel. So this is the line, dotted line you can see here, which is representing your CGS, CG for your steel. Okay, CG and S denotes steel. So the difference or the vertical distance between these two, okay, the vertical distance between these two is nothing but your eccentricity. Remember always, the eccentricity is always the vertical distance between your CGC and your CGS. Okay, so this is your eccentricity, which is denoted by your small e. Okay, small e is used, small e alphabet is used to denote your eccentricity e. So it is usually in your numerical it is mentioned, this distance is mentioned. Okay, yeah, they say that the pre-stressing tendon, the pre-stressing tendon like this, the pre-stressing tendon is located at 50 mm from the soffit of the beam. Okay, so they mention this distance. So this is the soffit of your beam, which I have told you is the bottom fiber. So from the soffit of the beam, the pre-stressing tendon is located at a 50 mm distance. So they usually give this distance, and what you have to do is we have to calculate this distance. Okay, and you have to use this as E and not the 50 mm which they have mentioned. So usually students make a mistake while taking in the value of E. Okay, so we will learn that whenever we when we are dealing with the numericals. Okay, so you will understand it clearly. So moving on to your next thing, that is moment. Okay, moments are generated in your beam, right? Moments are generated in your beam. Maybe it is generated due to dead load, or whether it is generated due to live load, right? And moments are also generated because of the pre-stressing force. So let me just show you here in this figure. So this is your pre-stressing member, right? Pre-stressed member, wherein you have a pre-stressing steel over here. So because of this pre-stressing force, let me just draw. So this is your pre-stressing force P, right? So this is your pre-stressing force P, and this is also your pre-stressing force P, which is generated. Okay. So this is compressive in nature. And what happens is, because of this eccentricity, right? Because of this eccentricity, there will be some amount of moment generated in this element because of this eccentricity. If it was concentric, right, if the steel was at the center, that is if the CGC and CGS were same, right, if the tendon was concentric, like in this case, okay, you can see that the tendon is concentric, it is at the center. See, this tendon is located at the center of their, at the centroid of your concrete section. You can see it is at the centroid. So if this was the case, there was no moment to be generated because of this pre-stressing force P. If it is centrally located, there will be no moment generated because of this pre-stressing force P. Because of this eccentricity, right? Because of this eccentricity, there will be some amount of moment which will be generated, because usually whenever there is a force like this acting from a certain point, what we do is we calculate the moment based on this lever arm which is here. So the force P multiplied by your perpendicular distance, right? Perpendicular distance from this particular point, force P multiplied by a perpendicular distance will give you your moment. Okay, so that is what is mentioned over here. So moment M is equals to P into E. Okay, pre-stressing force into your eccentricity, that is your perpendicular distance, will give us the moment. And also there are moments which are generated by your dead loads and your live loads. Okay, moments will be generated by your dead loads and your live loads, so that is also represented by your capital M. Okay, so we will learn how we calculate those dead loads and live load moments as we head on to your numericals. Okay. So moving on to your next thing, that is capital A is usually used for representing cross-sectional area. So that is one common notation which we use. So capital A is used for denoting your cross-sectional area of your concrete member. Okay, concrete member, it is used to notate. Next, uh, I, capital I, that is your second moment of inertia, or your moment of inertia, what we call MOI. So that is what is your capital I. It is your moment of inertia, capital I. So for rectangular or rectangular section, the moment of inertia I is equals to BD cube by 12. Okay, it is B, that is this distance B into your depth D cube divided by 12. You must be knowing this, the basic thing. Okay, so remember this. Next thing, Z. What is Z? Z is your sectional modulus. Okay, sectional modulus. What we represent your sectional modulus is we use Z. We use Z to represent sectional modulus. So sectional modulus is equals to I by Y, right? So you can see here it is equal to I by Y. So this I which we have calculated, if we divide it by Y, if we divide it by Y. So what is this Y? Let us see what is this Y. So Y is your distance from top and bottom fiber from the centroid of your section. So let me just show you over here. So if this is your section, if this is your cross section, okay, if this is your cross section, if this is your B and this is your depth D, okay, this is your depth D and this is your width, that is B. So this is your centroid of your section, right? This is the centroid of your section. So this is your top fiber, as I've told you, of your section, and this is your bottom fiber. So the distance from the centroid of your section is nothing but your Y. So this is Y. This is for top fiber, so I am writing it as YT, and this is for YB because it is for bottom fiber. So for the distance from your centroid, right, from your centroid to your top fiber is YT, and the distance of your centroid from your centroid to your bottom fiber is your YB. Okay, so remember this. And this centroid is for concrete. Okay, it is CGC. It is centroid which we use for determining YT and YB. Centroid which we use is CGC. It is centroid of concrete and not centroid of steel. Remember this. So that is what it is represented here. YT is for distance of your top fiber from your CGC, and YB is your distance of bottom fiber from your CGC, or your centroid of your section. So that is what is Y which we will be using here. Okay, so I by Y is equal to your sectional modulus Z. Okay, I by Y is equals to sectional modulus Z. And if we use YT over here, so this will be for top fiber, and if we use B over here, this will be for bottom fiber. Okay, so that is what is represented here. You can see ZT and ZB. So it is sectional modulus for top fiber and sectional modulus for bottom fiber. And sometimes what happens is, you can see this is concentric tendon you have over here, and we have a uniform cross section, right? Uniform cross section here. YT will be equal to YB, right? YT will be equal to YB, and hence ZT will be equal to ZB. Hence ZT will be equal to ZB. So instead of writing T and B, what we represent it, we can directly write it as Z. ZT equal to ZB equal to Z, and YT is equal to YB equal to Y. We can represent it directly using these convention, and we can skip on writing T and B whenever it is a symmetric cross section. Okay, whenever it is a symmetric cross section across your x-axis. Okay, across your x-axis. So moving on to the next thing. So you can see it is F top and F bottom. So F is usually used for representing stress. Okay, F is used for representing stress, and Ft is nothing but the stresses at your top fiber, and Fb is the stress at your bottom fiber. Okay, so stresses, pre-stress in concrete developed at top fiber and at bottom fiber. We represent it as Ft and Fb. Okay, Ft and Ft, or you can write F top and F bottom. Okay, whatever convention you can, any of these convention you can use. So these are a few important notations and sign conventions which we will be using. And one more thing. So moment compressive force, if it is a compressive force, it is considered as positive, right? Compressive force is considered positive, and tensile forces are considered to be negative. And whenever there is a compressive force generated in your beam, it will be considered as positive, and if it is developing tensile force in your concrete, it is termed to be negative. Okay, so remember this. So moving on to your next part is how do you analyze a pre-stressed concrete with a concentric tendon. Okay. So we will learn how do you analyze a simply supported beam with a concentric tendon. Concentric tendon meaning your pre-stressing tendon is located at the CG of your concrete. Okay, it is located at the CG of your concrete. So here your CGC and your CGS are equal, right? They are at the same place. CGS are at your same places, so they are equal, meaning it is a concentric tendon. You can see that the tendon which is placed here is centrally placed at your cross section. You can see it is centrally placed, and hence your pre-stressing force here, this P force, will not generate any moments. Okay, it will not generate any moments, and hence you can see that this beam, when it is pre-stressed, it will neither hog or it will neither sag. Okay, it will not be either hogging or it will not be either sagging, because of no moments which are generated because of this centrally located tendon. Okay, so if it was eccentric, based on the eccentricity, it will hog. If the eccentricity is below your neutral axis, it will hog, and if the eccentricity is above your neutral axis, it will cause sagging. Okay, so usually the tendons are located below your neutral axis, right? It is usually located below your neutral axis, and hence it will always cause sagging effect. It will cause sagging effect. So let us look into this. This is your cross section, and this is your longitudinal section of your beam. Okay, this is your pre-stressing force, and this is your length of your beam, which is denoted as capital L. Then let us look into this stress distribution diagrams. Okay, stress distribution diagrams. So because of this pre-stressing force, okay, because of this pre-stressing force P, there will be some amount of stress generated in your concrete, right? There will be some amount of stress, compressive stress, especially because this is compressive in nature, right? P, which is your pre-stressing force, is compressive in nature. You can see they are acting towards each other. You can see these forces are acting towards each other. Hence, they are compressive. They develop compressive force in your concrete. They develop compressive force in your concrete. Hence, you can see it is denoted as positive. Okay, it is denoted as positive, and what we call it as, direct stress. Okay, we call it as direct stress, and it is equal to P by A. So P is your pre-stressing force, and your capital A is your cross section area of your cross section. Okay, area of your cross section, that is capital A. Okay, it is area of cross section of your concrete. So P divided by A will give me my direct stress, and this direct stress is always compressive in nature. It is always positive. Okay, it is always positive. So let me just explain this stress distribution diagram. So this is the depth of your concrete, right? This is the depth of your beam, and this value is your P by A. This value which I'm drawing now, this value is your P by A. Okay, this value is your P by A. Okay, so it is, you can see it is equal at top fiber and bottom fiber. You can see at the top fiber it is same, and at bottom fiber it is same. Hence, what we get is we get a rectangular type of stress distribution. We get a rectangular type of stress distribution. You can see it is a rectangular type of stress distribution which is having width of P by A. Okay, this value is nothing but P by A, and this is nothing but your depth of your section. Okay, depth of your section. Now moving on to the next one, so you can see there is this stress diagram which is generated because of your moment. Okay, because of your moment. So this moment is due to dead load plus your live load. Okay, dead load plus your live load. Remember this moment, how you calculate is this moment. First, you have to calculate your dead loads, and you have to look into what are the live loads which are coming. Okay, live loads will be given. So and so amount of live load are acting, and dead load you have to calculate by the cross section, right? You can use the cross section, and you can calculate the self weight of the beam. Self weight is nothing but your dead load. Okay, self weight you can calculate. Add both of these to get the total load W. Okay, add both of this to get W, and then you can calculate using this W. You can calculate the moment. Okay, you can calculate the moment which we have substituted here. Okay, moment which we have substituted here. Then next in this equation, you can see it is my by I. It is m into y divided by I. So y, you know, it is top fiber. You can substitute yt, and for bottom fiber you can substitute yb. Okay, so you have to calculate separately for top fiber. So this is for bottom fiber. Similarly, you will have an equation over here, m y t divided by I, and this is m y b. Okay, this is for bottom fiber, so this I will represent as yb. So this is value, what you get, m y by I. What you do, we know what is yi, what is y value, right? We know what is y value. We have calculated the m value, and we know the I value. So substituting and getting this value, suppose you get it as, say, 5 Newton per mm square. So this value will be 5 Newton per mm square. Okay, and at the bottom fiber, what you get is 2 kilonewton per 2 Newton per mm square. So you draw a line which is 2 units, and this is 5 units, and then you join it. Okay, and then you join it, and this value is your depth of your beam. Okay, it is the depth of your beam. Okay, so understood how you calculate. So it is my by I. So if you substitute yt, it is for top fiber, and if you substitute yt, yb, it is for bottom fiber. Okay, depending on what you substitute here, you get at the top fiber or at bottom fiber. Okay, so this will be clear once you solve the numerical. Okay, we will be solving all of this, and we will be drawing this stress diagrams. Okay, we will be drawing this stress diagrams. There you will have a clear picture of how to do this. Okay, so why is this positive? Okay, why is this positive and why is this negative? Let me just explain why is this positive and negative. Okay, so suppose this is now at a transfer stage. Okay, this is at transfer stage wherein it is having no live loads. Okay, you can see there are no live loads acting over here. There are no live loads. There is only this pre-stressing force, and then there is the self weight. Okay, self weight of this beam, which is considered as dead load. Okay, which is considered as dead load. Now, what this dead load causes is this dead load, and dead load will cause a sagging, right? It will cause sagging of your beam. Your beam will start to sag like this. Understood? Because of this dead load, and because of this dead load, which is causing sagging, there will be compressive forces over here, right? Because this is sagging, compressive force will be generated here, and tensile force will be generated here, right? Tensile forces will be generated at the bottom fiber, and at the top fiber there will be compressive forces generated. So what we have decided is compressive forces are positive, right, and tensile forces are negative, and hence you can see it is positive at the top fiber and it is negative at your bottom fiber. That is why this have become plus and minus. Now moving on to your next, that is after dead load, we put the beam at service. Okay, we put the beam in service. There will be live loads acting on this beam. Now there will be live loads, there will be some amount of live load which will be acting. Suppose now it is having a UDL. Okay, suppose it is having a UDL. So what that UDL will cause is that UDL which will cause the beam to sag, right? It will cause your beam to sag in the similar fashion as your dead load, and hence if the beam is sagging, it will cause compressive forces at top fiber and it will cause negative tensile forces at the bottom fiber, and hence for your live loads also the stress diagram will be similar. Okay, for your live load the stress diagram will be similar, only the magnitude, okay, only the magnitude will vary, only the magnitude will vary. You can also draw the combined one for dead load and live load. So you can draw a combined stress diagram, or you can draw separately for dead load and separately for live load, depending upon the question or depending upon your method of solving. You can either draw separately for dead load, live load, or you can add both of them and you can draw a combined bending stress diagram, which is this one. Okay, so these two have to be added. Okay, these two have to be added in order to get your resultant stress. Okay, in order to get your resultant stress, that is F. So these two need to be added. You can see there is an addition sign over here. So these two need to be added to get a resultant stress. So that is what is written over here, resultant stress. So this is P by A, right? The direct stress, which is here, you can see P by A. And then this is your bending stress, My by I, which is over here. So as you can see, this is always positive. So this is denoted as positive and not plus or minus. Okay, because it is always positive, it is written as plus P by A and not plus or minus. And this bending stress My by I. Okay, bending stress My by I, you can see it is positive for top fiber and it is negative for bottom fiber. You can see it is plus and minus both. So we have written plus or minus. Okay, depending upon whether you are calculating it for top fiber f top, whether you are calculating this resultant stress for top fiber, you have to substitute yt over here, yt, and it will be positive. Okay, what your this bending stress. Okay, bending stress is positive for your top fiber. Now if you are calculating it for bottom fiber, stress for bottom fiber resultant stress, you have to substitute yb and your bending stress value will be negative. Okay, it will be negative. Hence, what we have written is, we have written it as plus or minus My by I. Okay, so your resultant stress may vary. Okay, resultant stress may not be always positive, may not be always negative. It will depend upon your direct stress and your bending stress. Depending upon the magnitude and direction of your bending stress and your direct stress, the resultant stress at your top fiber may be positive, may be negative, and the resultant stress at your bottom fiber may be positive or may be negative. Okay, so combined diagram we have to draw later on for both of these. Okay, so I hope you have understood the concept of concentric tendon. Okay, I hope you have understood the concept of your concentric tendon, and this is the formula which we have to use for calculating the resultant stress in your concentric tendon. Okay, in your concrete beam with a concentric tendon. So this is the formula which you have to use. What you can do is, instead of writing y by I, what you can do is you can substitute I by y as z. Okay, you can substitute I by y and z. So what that will do is, so your equation will become p by a plus or minus z m by z. So instead of writing I by y, so what I can do is, instead of this I can substitute z. So it depends upon individual whether you want to substitute y by I or whether you can substitute z, depending upon individual. So both of these will give you your same answer. Okay, so we will be solving, while solving we will use both of this. Okay, we will be using some numericals, we will be solving by using this formula. Some numericals we will be solving by using this formula, okay, so that you have an idea of both of these. So I hope this first concept is clear for your concrete with a concentric tendon, okay, beam with a concentric tendon. I hope it is clear. So now moving on to your next thing, that is your eccentric tendon, okay, eccentric tendon, wherein you can see this beam is having an eccentricity and it is having a variable eccentricity, okay. So eccentricity is zero over here, okay, it is zero and it is going on increasing. You can see it is going on increasing up to here, and then it is having a constant eccentricity from here to here. You can see it is having constant amount of eccentricity, and then again your eccentricity is going on decreasing and it is becoming zero at your ends. Okay, it is becoming zero at our ends. So this is a beam showing eccentricity, variable eccentricity, having a beam with tendon having variable eccentricity. It is not having constant eccentricity. It is having variable eccentricity. So, and this image is showing how that eccentricity is it is how it is manufactured, how that beam is manufactured with eccentric tendon, okay. So you can see it is having a support force, and this is your beam, and this is your tendon, right? It is a steel member, and you can see at one end you have a jack, and one end you have an anchorage. Okay, so this is the one which will be pulling your steel tendon or applying tensile forces, right? So tensile forces will be developed in your steel because of this jacking action, and it is and at this point it will your steel members are held down, right? The steel members are hooked and they are pulled down. It is called a hold down force to apply your eccentricity. So this is a beam with bended tendon, or bent tendon, or what you call a eccentric tendon. So why do we have this variable eccentricity, right? Why do we have this variable eccentricity? So depending upon the load on your beam, right? If it is having this kind of loading, if it is having this kind of loading, or whether it is having a UDL. So depending upon your loading conditions, right? Depending upon your loading conditions, your eccentricity of your beam is decided. Eccentricity is decided based on your loading and based on your BMD, okay, based on your BMD, that is your bending moment diagram of your beam. Based on these two, what we do is we decide our profile of our tendon. We decide the profile of our tendon. So this is important. Next, moving on to your figure of your eccentric tendon, wherein we have a concentric tendon. No, we do not have a concentric tendon. We have a tendon which is having constant eccentricity. Okay, remember different. Try to understand the difference between both of them. Okay, so we have a tendon which is having constant eccentricity throughout the beam. You can see the tendon is having same profile. It is not inclined, or it is not having a curved profile. It is straight, but it is having some amount of eccentricity, which is E. Okay, which is E. And this is your cross section, and in your cross section you can see this is your steel tendon. You can see this is your steel tendon, which is eccentric by some amount of capital small e, which is eccentric by certain amount small e. And I've told you the difference, the vertical distance between your CGC and your CGS is your eccentricity. And because of this eccentricity, right, because of this eccentricity, there will be moment which will be generated, right? There will be moment which will be generated like this. There will be moment which will be generated. Okay, just a second. I will be resuming your meeting in a few moments. Okay, so let us continue. So this beam you can see is a simply supported one. It is a simply supported one, right? It is a simply supported beam having a uniformly distributed load. You can see it is having a uniformly distributed load, and it is having a pre-stressed steel with a constant eccentricity. Okay, so remember this. Next, there will be stresses which will be developed, right, because of this loadings. So I have explained to you this direct stress which is generated, right? Direct stress which is generated, which is P by A. I have explained this P by A, and then I have told you this My by I, right? Because of your dead load and your live load, right? So it will be positive at your top because of compression, and it will be negative at your bottom fiber because of your tension which is developed because of your dead load and your live load. So this stress diagram is common. It is common for both dead load and for live load also. So what you can do is you can draw either separately, or you can draw like this combined for your bending stress. Okay, so this is for your bending stress. I have explained to you this bending stress also. Now, you can see this is your pre-stressing force P, and which is eccentric, right? Which is eccentric by some certain amount, small e. And because of this eccentricity, there will be this moment which is generated. Okay, this moment is generated, and this moment, what it causes is it will cause some amount of stress in our beam. Okay, additional to this direct stress and this bending stress, this moment which is generated because of your eccentricity, there will be certain amount of stresses which will be generated. So let me just explain how that stress is. So this is the stress diagram for that moment and that bending stress which is generated additional because of this eccentricity E. Okay, so you can see it is negative at the top fiber and it is positive at our bottom fiber, and it is similar to this equation. Okay, it is similar to this equation. Let me just explain to you how. So P into E, your moment, this moment value is what? This moment value it is, I have told you it is P into your eccentricity E, right? So that is what I am writing here, P into E, which is your moment, right? Moment, and into Y by I. So it is the same equation. You can see it is the same equation. So this moment is what? It is P into E. Okay, it is P into E, which is giving your moment, and into Y by I is the same equation which we are using. And because it is plus or minus, it is plus at your bottom fiber, and it is minus at your top fiber. Hence, what you have to do, you have to write plus or minus. So this is your equation. You can see it is plus or minus P into E into Y divided by I. So that is what your moment and your bending stress which is generated because of your eccentricity, which you have to add in your equation. Okay, so I hope this is clear. So let me just explain why this is negative and why this is positive at your top and bottom fiber. So this is your beam which we are using, and it is having a tendon at having a constant eccentricity E. So what this eccentricity E will cause is, it will cause your beam to hog, right? It will cause your beam to hog. So it will bend in this fashion. The beam will bend in this fashion. Okay, you can see it is not sagging, but it is hogging because of the eccentricity E, and because it is located below your neutral axis, right? It will cause hogging action. And if this tendon was located over here, if the tendon was located at this level, which is at above your neutral axis, imagine if you put compressive force over here, what will happen? It will cause your beam to sag. Okay, it will cause your beam to sag, but it is not the case. In usually in all the pre-stressing force, your tendon is located below your neutral axis. Okay, in majority of your cases. So that will cause a hogging of your beam, right? It will cause hogging of your beam, so that your loads which are coming, though they are balanced, right? I have explained to you this in your concept of pre-stressing. So you can see because of that, tension or tensile forces are developed at your top fiber, which is denoted as negative, and compressive forces are generated at your bottom fiber, which are termed as positive, right? So that is why you can see at top fiber it is negative, and at bottom fiber it is positive. So remember, so this is a stress diagram for direct stress. This is due to eccentricity and pre-stressing force, and this is due to dead load and live load. So once you add all of this, once you add all of this, you can see there is plus sign over here. Once you add these three diagrams, you can see a resultant diagram of this fashion you will be getting. A resultant diagram of this fashion, which is positive in nature. So this may vary, okay, this diagram may vary, but usually these three diagrams are same. Usually they are same, but not 100% same in every numerical, but they are usually same. But this resultant diagram may keep on varying. It will be varying, it will not be similar, okay. So this is how you analyze, okay, this is how you analyze for your pre-stressing member with an eccentricity, okay, with some amount of eccentricity. Now let me just to show you the resultant force equation. So adding up all this P by A plus or minus PEY by I plus My by I will give me my resultant force F. Okay, you can see it is P by A plus PEY by I plus or minus My by I. So this is your equation which is used for calculating your resultant stresses. So if we use Yt and Yt over here, if we use this as Yt, okay, if we substitute Yt, we get the stresses at top fiber, and if we substitute Yb in this equation, right, we get the stresses at bottom fiber. So remember this. Next thing, you can always use Z, right? You can always use Z that I've told you. I by Y you can substitute instead of substituting this Y by I. Instead of using this term, you can substitute Z, right? In these two places you can substitute Z, and you can solve based on your interest or based on your technique. You can use any of this. You can use either this one, or you can use Z. You can substitute M by Z and PE by Z. Okay, you can substitute that and you can solve. You will get the same answer. Okay, so we will be solving numericals using this formula. Okay, so this is a very important formula you have to remember. Okay, this is a very important formula, so keep in mind. This is due to direct stress, this is due to dead load, live load, and this is due to pre-stressing force, which is eccentric. Okay, so this is about your theory part, which is for your stress concept. Okay, this is regarding the theory part of your stress concept. So with the help of this formula, okay, with the help of this formula, we will be solving various types of numericals. We will be solving various types of numericals for this one. Okay, so now if anyone is having any kind of doubts, or if they want to share anything, you are free to share. The session is open. If you have any kind of doubts, you can type in the chat, or you can unmute and you can ask. So I was hoping to solve at least one or two numericals today, but since it is a 1 hour class, so what we will have to end the session here. So if you have no doubts, you can start typing in your attendance. If there is no doubt, you can start typing in your attendance. So simultaneously, when you are typing in your attendance, if anyone is having any doubts, you are free to unmute and you can ask your doubts. So quickly everyone type in your attendance. So make sure in your next class, right? In your next class, which is on Monday, not Monday, it is on Tuesday. Okay, Tuesday, which is a 2 hour class, right? So make sure all of you attend, because we will be starting with your numericals. We will start with your numericals, and if you want to solve simultaneously with me, you can keep a calculator with you. You have to make a separate notebook for this subject. Okay, make a separate notebook. Keep your calculator and pen with you, and you can solve simultaneously as I explain. Okay, so practice is important. And yes, so as Sanju is suggesting for me, so I will try to go slow for problems, but you can see that this module 1 is still yet to finish. We are just half of into your first module. We have to solve your numericals using stress concept, then we have to look into your force concept, then we have to look into load balancing concept. So we have a lot of things to cover in your first module, so we have less amount of time. So initially I will be going slow, right? Initially for first 2-3 problems I will go slow, but then after that you have to catch up with me. Okay, you have to go fast as a solve. Once you understand the things, you have to start solving it fast. Okay, because we have less time. You can see only to complete half of your module, we are almost 3 weeks into your syllabus, 3 weeks into your timeline into your month. Okay, so we have finished only half of your module, right? So initially I will go slow while solving the problems. First 2 3 I will go slow, in detail I will solve, but next later on you have to catch up with me. Okay, so that is there. Anything else you want to share, you are free to share. And you are free, if we are done, then we will stop the session here.